Hello, everyone. It's criminal profiler Pat Brown, and I'm a little bit late because I pressed the go live button and it didn't, and I pushed the go live button and it didn't. But I think I'm live now, so if you can see and hear me, do let me know that while I say hello to everybody. Hi, Annie. Hi, Molly. Hi, Carrie. Hi, Ann. Lisa S. and Lisa N. And who else is here? Let's see. Florence is here, and Molly's here. Did I already say that? And I might have already said that. Okay, hi everybody. And can you hear me? Oh, you can. Okay. It wasn't an auspicious start today, but it'll get better. So, hello everybody in the chat room. If you're new to the channel, please do like and subscribe. And when you subscribe, hit that little bell that'll let you know that another show is coming up. And also check the playlist for all the crimes you would like to hear me analyze, and that's there too. And if you'd like to participate in the chat room, please click below on Patreon. It's a patrons chat room, which keeps everything civil, and everybody's super friendly and super interested in crime and analysis. And so we have a great community here, and there's little benefits. So do join Patreon, and also there's a little dollar sign now below my videos. This one, when I put it up, will be missing for a couple hours because it has to process. But then there's a little dollar sign, and that's a way to support the channel with a one-time donation because maybe YouTube felt bad for us demonetized folks, so they're trying to give us a little push, a little help. And make some more money off of us. But anyway, all right, so I'm glad everybody's here. Today we're going to talk about this really incredibly sad crime that happened in Australia, and an entire family, this entire beautiful family, was murdered in one night. All right, so what happened? This is the guy that eventually got convicted for the crime. He is actually related to them. And this is what makes this a very, very interesting crime. Now, some people do not believe he did it. His defense lawyer definitely doesn't believe he did it. His wife, who stands by him, thinks he's being, railroaded by the police. So we're going to get into all of that. Very, very interesting and horrific crime. And I'm going to talk about what mass murder is. I'm going to talk about family annihilators and how is that as far as mass murder goes? Is that considered a mass murder when you have a bunch of people you killed in one time? Or is that really something different from, somebody goes into a school and shoots it up, or goes into a business and shoots it up? So I'm going to talk about that. And I'm also going to talk about the age issue. The two main ages that you have mass murderers and family annihilators. And they usually come as teens and midlife crisis people, like this guy. Okay, so, well, thank you very much. Hold on a second. Well, thank you, Lisa. Blue is a great color for me. Okay, that's cool. Sometimes when I put on a shirt and I'm trying to do the lighting, my shirt is not the color I put on me because, the lights change things, and I'm like, oh, that's an interesting color, but it's not what I thought I was wearing. So you never know. Lisa N retired. Well, congratulations, Lisa N. That's awesome. Clicking? Everything is clicking wrong on my show tonight. What the heck? There's a little defect going on here, but mostly me. Okay. All right. So let's go on. What about this family? Because. Okay, let me start with who they are, because I think it's important, especially in this particular case, to understand who these people are, where they came from, and how special they are. So let's take a look at them. Let me pull this up here. All right, no, that is not. They did not do that to me again. Oh, how interesting. I've told you sometimes I've had problems with pictures disappearing. That's what's happening again. I'm going to use this picture even though it sucks, because they decided to take out the pictures or the faces of the kids. Well, the kids aren't even alive, so I'm not sure why that's important. And the girl here I understand, but I'll get into why I understand that. Anyway, who are these lovely people that were murdered? All right, so now they are the Lynn family. let me show you who the parents are here. These are the Lynn family. This is Min Lynn. On the left is Min Lynn. He was 45 years old, and his wife Lily Lynn. She was 43, and they had moved to Sydney, Australia from China, and they were basically coming here for college. And they met. I believe they met in Australia, and then fell in love and married, and they stayed in Australia. So they had 3 children, and this is their daughter, and her daughter is named Terry. Wait a minute, is her name Terry? Terry. Sometimes they change names, and when I'm reading different articles, I'm like, is that the name, the real name, or did they give a fake name? This is Terry, and then there were. Wait a minute, that's not, I'm sorry, Brenda. I'm losing my mind here. That's Brenda. See, Terry is a girl's name and a boy's name, but this is Brenda, and that's her real name, Brenda. Okay, and then there were her 2 little brothers, and her 2 little brothers were Henry, who was 12 years old, and Terry, that's the Terry, who was 9 years old. So Henry on the left and Terry on the right. So there were 3 children, and they lived together with this is the aunt of the kids, and this is the sister of the wife, Lily. Okay, so, and what happened was they opened this. They had a business that they ran in Australia, and let me show you a picture of their business. It was I'm having photo issues today. I really apologize for that. There we go. They had a news agent place, and it was hugely successful. He actually Min, that's the father. He went in every day, like he worked 7 days a week. He really worked hard, and he was so successful that he brought in $1 million of revenue each year. So they were doing very well. Now, they didn't live ostentatiously. They lived in a very pleasant house in the suburbs of Sydney. And let me find, see my pictures. Oh, there, it didn't disappear on me. Okay, so this is the house they lived in. So you see, it's not like a massive mansion. They worked hard. They lived in this nice house. And he also brought his parents over. And those are his parents. Right there is I think that's his dad over here. And this is a terrible picture. But everybody the family is here, plus the parents. I think that's the mother back there, which is the grandmother of the kids and the grandfather of the kids. Or that's the grandfather, and that's the father. Terrible picture. Anyway, and some people are missing, but those are the people that, didn't get killed. So those were them, and they had lived in, and the parents did not live in the house. They lived down the way. So, but he brought them over. So wonderful, happy family. The parents were in the community too. So the kids had the grandparents around. And according to the daughter, she speaks so highly of her parents. She just says they were like super nice, and she thought her brothers were great. So, I mean, this is really the beautiful family that, everybody wants and should have no problems. They should have no problems. So now what happened here? So now they're living happily, and it says here they were very family oriented. Okay, so he helped his parents migrate to Australia as well, brought them to a home close by, 30 minutes away, so not next door, but 30 minutes away. And then Min's sister Kathy, okay, so this is Kathy. That's Min's sister. Min is the man of the family, the father. Okay, this is his sister. So what happened here was she also came over with her husband, and his name is Robert G. Okay, Robert. All right. They also lived in Sydney, but what had happened was they had actually not lived in Sydney originally. They had lived someplace else. He was an ENT specialist. Apparently didn't do very well. Apparently they crashed and burned. So they moved to Sydney, okay? And just down the street, literally down the street from, like around the corner from the family. And that seemed like a good thing because even the daughter, she says, she loved her aunt and uncle. She thought, they helped out with things, and the uncle would come over and play badminton with one of the boys because he liked badminton. And, everybody was getting along just great, or so you would think. All right, so now exactly what happened. All right, let's go back to the house because this is where it all happened at, okay? And this is the start of the terrible story. All right, so yes, you're right. But there is a. I have a weird clicking problem today. When I click on things, there's a box that comes up and blocks everything. So there's something wrong with my computer, but I can't do anything about it because I'm already doing the show. So, but Brenda is beautiful. Yes, that is the lovely, lovely teenage daughter. She was 15 at the time this happened. And now you say, why do we even talk about Brenda? Because she wasn't home when this happened, which is why she's alive. Okay, so here's what happened. All right, here's the nice house. All right, so on July 17th, 2009, the Lynn family goes to Min's parents' house for dinner. Remember, they're 30 minutes away. So everybody, this family, and, well, not Brenda. What's happened is Brenda went on a 1-week school trip out of the country. I think she went to New Caledonia. So she went out of the country and said goodbye to her parents. And, she talks about this. And I have a link below about when she comes forth finally and talks about this. Because her name wasn't mentioned for years and she didn't go public for years as far as media goes. She finally decided to talk about it. And it is an absolutely heartbreaking interview. And you kind of cry through the whole bloody thing. So it's really sad. But she says, but the night before she left, she said goodbye to her mom and said, "Oh, Mom, I love you, blah, blah, blah." She said goodbye to one of her brothers who was awake. But the next day when her father took her to the airport, she said she was kind of like a teen who was like, "Oh, I see other teens like kissing on their parents and saying, oh, I'm going to miss you." And she's like, "I'm too cool for that. I'm only going to be gone a week. I don't need to do that." And now, of course, she regrets not hugging her dad and saying, "I love you, Dad. You were a great dad." But of course, she thought she was coming back in a week, and hey, it's just a week, right? Well, what a difference a day makes. So anyway, the family that was there, and Brenda's now out of the country, went to Min's parents' house for dinner. They did this every Friday. The only member wasn't there was Brenda, okay? So she's in New Caledonia, France. All right. Okay, the following day, July 18th, was fairly early in the morning. Okay, when Min's sister Kathy, okay, let me show you, remember who these people are, because there's a lot of names here, so let me just set this up for who they are again. So Min's sister Kathy, that's her. Her brother is the father of the family, and this is her husband, Robert, okay? What happened was people went to their store in the morning, and normally there's like tons of, they get all their newspapers there and all that, and they get their whatever snacks they're getting, and it's also a convenience store. It was closed. And the dad of this family was there every morning without fail, and people were like, why is the store not open? So she started getting calls about what's going on. It was always open for business on a busy Saturday morning, definitely not normal for Min not to have gone in to open up. She knew immediately something wasn't right. So she walked over to the Lynn family residence with her husband, Robert. Okay, it's a 3-minute walk from their house. And that's important. When they arrived, they found the front door was unlocked. Okay? But everything appeared relatively normal. Now let's see what normal looks like. So inside the front door were, right here, were shoes. Okay, so you come in the house, you take your shoes off, and there were shoes in the front and looked normal. They walked into the living room. That looked all clean and nice and normal. Everything in the house looked normal. They saw the kids' backpacks and keys in a bowl on the front table. So backpacks were there, the keys were there, so they should be home. Kathy walked upstairs, and she went into the master bedroom. And in the master bedroom, she found Lily, that's the wife, the mother, drenched in a pool of blood, bludgeoned to death by a weapon that appeared to be similar to a hammer. So I'm guessing there was a lot of that kind of thing. And she saw Lily, that was That was that was the mother. She did not see her brother at that time because there was like this big like comforter quilt thing, and he apparently was under it, but she didn't see his body at that time. Then she went to the next room, and she saw her sister Irene. That was the aunt who was living there. The other sister, Irene, okay, who was living with the Lynn family at the time. Irene had been also bludgeoned to death with a blunt object. She ran from room to room and found Min and Lily's young sons, 12-year-old Henry and 9-year-old Terry, also murdered in a similar fashion. There was blood spattered all over the walls, indicating that there was a struggle. Okay, just to show you this is when she was being interrogated. Where did it go? Okay, hold on one second. Where did it go? I'll tell you, something really weird going on here. Well, who is this? Let me see who this is. Well, that's him. He said, this is the husband. Even on the wall, there was blood. He said that. Yes, there was. There was blood all over the wall, blood on doorknobs, blood pretty much everywhere. Okay, so now I'll just leave that one thought there. So now it gets interesting. She calls 911, or in Australia, 000. Okay, she calls. Now, think about this for a minute. What do you think is wrong with that picture right there? What do you think? What bothers you about that? Hold on, I'm trying to get to, oh man, this thing is just not working today. Okay. Wow, all kinds of weird things happening. Okay. What do you think? Elisa's got an interesting point. I'm sorry, there's definitely something wrong with my computer because I'm clicking on things and it's not coming through. Lisa says, I'd panic that the killer might still be in the house. Yeah, that is concerning. But I think they were so, at this point, when they came in, they were so shocked, about finding bodies and blood everywhere, and everybody was clearly dead. You know what I mean? Not recently dying or anything, dead. So at that point, I think they were just so shocked they didn't think that. Okay, this is an interesting point. Hold on a second while I deal with my... Anne, where is he during her searching the house? That's an interesting point, and I'm not sure that's really clear. Not sure at all. Yeah, where is he? And what about the 911 call? What do you think is strange about the 911 call? Lisa S., I'd run out of the house and call 911. No, but that's not the weird thing, in my opinion. Who is she to the family? And who is he to the family? There we go. Lisa, thank you. It's her brother. So you'd expect her husband to spare her the trauma of calling the police. Yes, you would. In general, okay, I'm going to be old-fashioned here. The husband should be protecting his more emotionally soft wife. Okay, we can't say that these days, but he's supposed to be protecting her. He should call anyway, even if he was related to them. But on top of it, it's actually her brother. He's just the husband. He's not related to any of these people. He does know them, but he's not related. She's related. And he has her calling 000, making her make the phone call. That's suspicious right there. I thought that was really, really strange. Okay, so then the next thing that happens, which is weird, is, get this one. All right, so this is funny. By the way, this story part is coming from Medium, and Medium has a lot of great crime stories if you just want to read all kinds of different crime stories, but they have some really questionable writers on here, well-meaning but very teenagery writers, and sometimes they just have, the editing is dreadful. But I think this next line is really funny. It was, this is terrible in the middle of this. It's too funny. It was described by police as one of the girliest crime scenes in all of New South Wales history. Well, the girliest crime scenes. Like, Do you mean goriest crime scenes? I'm thinking you do. Girliest crime scene. That wasn't very girly. It was a brutal, extremely violent crime. I think it wasn't girly at all. I think it was pretty gory. Um, um, let me see. Let me check what Lisa here has to say. If I can. Stop doing this. Why is it acting this way? Okay. But if he did call, you'd say, why is he calling? It's her brother and family. No, I would not. I would not. Absolutely not. Because under circumstances like that, I think the person who can keep it together is the one that should call. I understand your point, because sometimes you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. But I think under a circumstance where you've just seen that and you've seen, all the family dead, I think the husband probably should step in. But it gets worse. Okay. Oh, what kind of expression is on his face in that picture? He has that expression a lot. That's kind of his expression. A new kind of crime scene. The girliest crime scene. All right. Anyways, the goriest crime scene. Now, here's what's very interesting. Also, when the police arrive on the scene, they're met by Kathy, who is standing outside the home screaming. She's alone, while her husband, Robert, made the drive to go get their parents and tell them what happened. Okay, you leave your completely emotionally distraught, completely freaking out wife at the crime scene alone and say, good luck, honey. Hang out until the police get here and then handle them. And run off to get the parents. Like you couldn't have stayed with your wife until the police did what they needed to do and then inform the parents. You run off to tell the parents? That is just, First of all, you abandoned your wife at the crime scene. Secondly, I don't know why you think you need to tell the parents yourself that quickly. There's time to do that. It's not in the media yet, And thirdly, are you running away from the crime scene and the police, giving yourself some more time to think? Yeah, that's kind of it. He doesn't want to talk to the police. There's a good. Oh, man, here we go again. Here we go. Sorry, this is like disaster night on my computer. It reminds me of John Ramsey leaving to check the mail. Yeah, I'm always suspicious of somebody who wants to leave at a time when they should be there to do the most they can to help the police. It's very uncomfortable. It's miserable. Whatever the reasons are, you just don't find something else to do. Of all the days, you don't do it then. You focus on what the horrible thing in front of you, and that you have to be there to help. And I think that's just no wonder he bombed as an ENT. Yeah, it's like, let me look. Oh no, I got something to do. Oh my God. All right, so now the paramedics arrive, but it's clear the victims have been dead a while. There's no lives to be saved. Now, what happened was they all were bludgeoned in their beds, and the mother and father were asleep, obviously, when they were attacked, and also the sister, the older sister, the aunt. And then when they got to the kids' room, apparently one of the kids woke up and fought, and he was beat really a lot because he fought back. Very, very sad. Initially, Min's body hadn't been accounted for because he was under the duvet. What do you say, the duvet? He was under a big, huge quilt, and they didn't know he was under it right away. So Kathy would later tell the police that she looked under the duvet because she had a feeling her brother was under it. Maybe she had seen a lump under the cover and just recalled seeing it. Don't know. But anyway, his body was there. Originally, they thought maybe he killed his family and ran off, because that often is true with family annihilators, right? They get rid of their family because they have something better to do, like maybe the stripper down the street or something, that they want to run away with. So they originally said, oh my God, the guy's not here, so he killed his family. Then they found his body. And he'd been bludgeoned, so it wasn't like a murder-suicide, because he was also dead. So, by something he couldn't have done. Now, all right. Now, let me tell you how this then unfolds as to how he becomes a suspect. So anyway, the poor girl, Brenda, she comes back. It's horrible in the story. She wakes up. She's like, the next day, there's news out that a family has been murdered in Australia. and there's a picture of the house in the paper, and she's like, oh my God, that's my house. Yeah, it was. So she came back home to this absolute, just most horrible thing you can possibly imagine, and it just was really, really sad. And this is part of the funeral pictures. Yeah, five caskets in a row, and that's Brenda with her grandparents who are just completely destroyed over this, and at that point in time, they didn't think that necessarily he did it, although they started having suspicions about him because his behavior was weird, and there were reasons to consider that this wasn't a stranger homicide. But I'll get to that in just a second, just to tell you that what happened was Brenda had no place to go when she came back, so guess who she went to live with? Those two. Can you imagine that? She's living with them, and she said actually they were being very, very nice to her, and even he was being really nice to her, taking her to school, making lunches and all this stuff. And there's some reasons he might have been extremely nice to her, and I'll get into that. But she was staying with them, and so she did not think he was involved. I mean, she said, there's no way I would have believed that my own uncle, who I'd been around for years, would have anything to do with this. That's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous that he would come in and bludgeon my family to death in that brutal a manner. For what reason, right? Okay, so now the question is, what reason was there? All right, so let's go into the evidence and why he became a suspect. One of the main reasons was there was no sign of breaking and entering into that house, okay? So, they were killed in the night, all right? And if so usually when people are killed in the night, they don't, usually the door is unlocked, could have, but somebody got into this house without breaking and entering. Nothing was stolen from the house. Nothing, it wasn't like one of these, like a bunch of home invaders coming in to steal stuff and then tie the family up and kill them. The house wasn't ransacked. The house didn't have it wasn't like a bunch of teens coming in and trashing the place. And house was perfect condition except for what happened in the bedrooms. So the first suspicion was this was not a stranger. This is somebody who had access to the house, and the sister and her husband had a key to the house. The next thing that they noted, which is really strange, was that there just simply was massive violence while they were sleeping. Who does that? Except somebody who has some kind of real issue with the people in the house. So again, very personal. But here's the thing that really bugged them and why they really thought that this was somebody who knew the family awfully well. And what was it? It was Brenda. Okay. Brenda was away. Brenda had her own bedroom, and there was blood on the doorknobs of the parents' room, the boys' room, the aunt's room, but the person bypassed Brenda's bedroom and never touched the doorknob, never opened the door and looked in. Now, why would that be? Why wouldn't that person go into Brenda's room? That's the thing that really set them off. Oh, Amanda's here. Hi, Amanda. Hi, Amanda's one of our new folks. Hi, Amanda. And yes, there we go. Lisa S. The killer knew she was away. Exactly. And this is where people who are not good with committing crimes make mistakes. They don't think about that part. Now, the killer had gloves on. They had no fingerprints because there were gloves. There were smeared things, but no fingerprints. So the killer's putting the gloves on, but then when he gets to her door, he didn't see any reason to open it, and left that, doorknob, skip doorknob. And yes, if it had been a stranger, he would open up that door, found it empty, and then gone on his way. The door was never open. So the police said, that guy, for these three reasons, the personal bludgeoning of the crime, the excessive violence, nothing stolen, no sign of breaking and entering, and that damn doorknob, made them think it's somebody who knows them. Now, who would they think would commit this kind of crime? Well, we go back to behaviors and location. So now, let's go back to our intrepid couple here. Where's my thing? Hold on a second. Oh, did I just do that? Uh-oh, uh-oh, uh-oh. Help, help, help. Shoot, help. I'm having a bad day here. I swear to God, I've been really good. I just realized I had this, I had this thing like malposition because I was having so many technical difficulties starting the show that everything's off. Okay, now everything looks really good. Okay, I've been doing really well lately with all the mechanics, but today it's just gone to hell. All right, so anyway, Robert, first of all, his weird behaviors, right? He let his wife call 000. He walked away. He left this crime scene before the police got there. That was weird. And where did they live? Just around the corner. He didn't even need a car to get there. They didn't see any evidence of a vehicle involved. Nobody heard anything. So the chances are the person didn't drive up. So who could have walked up in the middle of the night? Him. Okay, so now it's the return of the gremlins. Yeah. No, I don't know. My computer's failing tonight. My lights were failing. I'm failing. Okay. All right. So now all eyes are on this guy. They're like, and they're thinking, why would he do these things, right? So one of the reasons they thought he might be involved is a very common mass murderer, family annihilator, midlife crisis. So I talked about that, and I want to talk about it here before I go on to the evidence that eventually got him convicted. Okay, the reason you kill people off in large groups, that's a rage thing. It's a rage against either society or people you know, which could be your family or it could be the people you work with. Now, when it's usually a young person, they usually commit one of two kinds. They usually go shoot up a school, not usually a business because they usually don't have a job. Usually they're just getting out of school and they're pissed off at all the people in school who are better than them. Better, I say better. In other words, successful. The football players, the cheerleaders, whomever, the people who have better families, those who have money, better clothes. Now by that time they're dressing in all black, and with boots and raincoats and shit. So now they're coming in and they're those guys you look at and go, man, there's something wrong with that kid. And there is. And he gets his point. He's like 17 years old, maybe 18 because he failed a grade. And he's like, my life sucks. I've been in school for 12, 13, 14, 15 years, still a senior. And everybody treats me badly. They bully me because they think I'm weird, which I am. My parents are a mess, if I have any. And girls don't like me. And I don't see any future. That's why they do this. No future. Because when people lose the ability to see future, they become very depressed and very angry and frustrated. So you got a little psychopath, and he can't even see a way to lie and manipulate his way into the future. He says, screw it. I'm going to get these guns, and I'm going to play my biggest video game, and I'm going to go and shoot everybody down in that school. I'm going to try to get a high number, because my name is going to be in the newspaper and all over the media. I'm going to become famous. It's my day in the sun, which is one reason I will not do any. I stopped a long time ago ever doing a television show that used the name of a mass murderer, of a group like a school mass murderer, showed his face and told the story, because that just encouraged other young mass murderers to try to beat the number and to be famous. So I won't do that anymore. Haven't done it in, oh my God, I think it's been a decade now. But that's why they do it, because they don't see a future and they want their one moment of being important and to be someone and to get back at all those people who thought they were better than them. So that's one way that the young person does this. The young person that is a family annihilator usually is pissed off at his family because he thinks the family, they're in his way, they're in his way. Sometimes a girl will do this too because she's got a new boyfriend and her parents don't want her to date him, so she kills her parents and her brother and runs off with the boyfriend. Sometimes a boy will do this to eliminate his parents' controlling him. And then he'll just wipe out the whole family, especially the ones in the family that the parents preferred because they weren't psychopaths. Get rid of them all, and then you're free of them. Then you can go on with your life. Usually they don't kill themselves. The young family annihilators try to survive it all, and sometimes they do. Sometimes they don't even get charged with anything, or sometimes they get out of prison early and go on their happy little way, and they go on with their lives. Sometimes they get a book deal. So that's really horrifying. Yes, this is very, very true. I was going to mention this because I couldn't remember the names of the show I did. I'd expect this to be a young person's crime, like Van Breda, David Bain, and Bamber in the UK. I have a video. If you haven't seen it yet, guys, go to my playlist. I have a Bamber and Bain video, UK and New Zealand, 2 young people who annihilated their families. Bamber's still in prison where he belongs. Bain is free, and he got married and has kids now, and it's disgusting because he wiped out his family. And the evidence on Bain in New Zealand was even stronger than the UK case. Amazing. So, just amazing. But yes, but let's go to the midlife crisis dude, okay? Now, the midlife crisis guy is a guy who's very similar to the other one, except that he now has had 20 extra years of failure. In other words, he ain't making it. For whatever reasons, things aren't going his way. It could be that he finds family life sucks, so he wipes out his family to run off with the mistress. The Chris Watts kind of thing. Scott Peterson, those kind. They want to wipe them out, hopefully get away with it, and start a new life because they don't like their old one. But the other kind of mass murderer, midlife, often will shoot up the whole, his whole place of work because they didn't give him a raise. And he knows he's not going to become a CEO. He knows he's never going to move up in the company or any place else. His life is just stuck. He's hit a wall, and he's fed up with it, and he's angry with everybody. So he goes and kills everybody. He doesn't care if he dies too because his life sucks. So that's a midlife crisis guy. And then in this particular case, one of the reasons that police looked at him, Robert, is because he was a failure. He came over from China and failed dismally in Australia. Then he came and lived in Sydney. He wasn't doing that great if it weren't for, his brother, doing a little helping out there. I mean, not his brother, but his brother-in-law. But he was jealous as heck of the fact that his brother-in-law, his family was doing well, and they had this great business and all of this, and he didn't. And so by getting rid of them, he becomes the one that is paid attention to, because now they're just not around anymore. And interestingly enough, which is something that came out a little later, the killer guy, does he have kids? I didn't find that he did, but that's a little confusing. I looked that up myself, and I couldn't come up with it. So no. Yes, this is correct. I wonder if Robert ever showed interest in Brenda. Yes, he did. He did indeed. And that's what came up in one of the later trials, that supposedly he really had a thing for Brenda, and he wanted to, apparently before she moved in with them, he had some moments of sexual abuse of her. I don't know how bad it was, what kind of thing it was, because she still moved in with him, so I'm thinking it couldn't have been that bad. But yet, supposedly, he did have a thing for her. And after she moved in, after the murders, he apparently ratcheted it up. And so he did apparently have an interest in her. And I don't have the court proceedings to know exactly. And she really hasn't said exactly what he did to her. She said she's not ready to say that. And so I don't know how much she did to her. But that was a theory that came. So there were 2 theories. One, severe jealousy of the family that were also successful, and he just had this wife, and who now stands behind him. So, had this wife and had this interest in that teenage girl, and hey, if you can this is the way they think. If I could just get rid of them, then I get everything. I get to be the top dog. He got their business, by the way. because when their family was all dead, the business had nobody to run it. He took over the business. And he took over, basically, he was the executor of Brenda's estate as long as she was underage. So, yeah, he really benefited, and he got Brenda in his home. So those were all the motives that they put out there. But, of course, that would not quite be maybe sufficient enough because it's very circumstantial. Let's look at the circumstantial things. So far, the circumstantial things is he lived nearby, looked like he had to be somebody who knew the family, they knew the way around the house, they could get in with a key, knew Brenda was out of town, so didn't bother with that bedroom, and had tremendous anger. Well, that's all very circumstantial, and you're looking at the evidence and you're drawing conclusions. That's what a profiler does. If I were working with the police, I would say, look at this dude. I would say, here's the different pieces of evidence. Look at him. But is that enough to convict him? And that's the problem. He's got motive because he's a weirdo and he has I'm going to guess he's got other things going here, but all kinds of behaviors that make him look like the guy. So, oh, did he really? Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. And he kicked Min's parents out of their home. Yeah, I think I did read something about that. That's a good point. Yeah. Oh, and this. Oh, yes, and you're correct. I think he picked a night Brenda was gone to keep her. Absolutely. Because this meant she wouldn't die with the rest of the family. Absolutely correct. Let's see. Not only did he know she was away, he had an inappropriate interest in his niece, hence not entering her room that night. No, he didn't enter her room because he knew she wasn't there, so there's no point in entering the room. Yeah, I don't think that's it. I think she wasn't there, and he knew that. And he knew she was safe. She was safe. This is what I wonder. Poor Brenda, her grandparents should have taken her away. Yes, and I don't know why they didn't. This is one of these cases where I haven't spent 100 hours analyzing every piece of the case. I haven't been able to access, every interview ever done and every bit of court documentation and all that, social services, So I don't know why the grandparents didn't step in and say, we'll take her. Perhaps they were so messed up and just so distraught they couldn't handle a teenage girl. Maybe nobody suspected them in the beginning, so why wouldn't the aunt and uncle, who are younger, take her in, So it makes sense. Yeah, so now let's talk about the evidence. Okay, now, this is where it gets very interesting. And this is what eventually got him convicted, thank God. So they found this at the house. This is a bloody shoe print. They determined this was U.S. size 8.5 to 10.5. There was only one set of shoe prints, which led police to believe that the killer had acted alone. The shoe prints are found in the hallways and in all the bedrooms except for Brenda's room. Okay? And so that is a very interesting piece of, so this is actual physical evidence, okay? There was no weapon left at the scene, but police believed it was a hammer. And also something interesting, they said it was tied with a rope, like he didn't want to, hit somebody and accidentally it slips out of his hand and then he's without a weapon. So he made sure he, that's pretty clever actually, make sure you don't drop the weapon, especially when it's getting bloody. It's easy for it to get slippery, so you have a rope to pull it back and keep whacking away. Give him credit on that one. And he also strangled them, by the way, along with hitting them. I think he beat them and then he strangled them as well. So very nice. He was pretty darn vicious. So he had gloves on, so that was not evidence that was left. But the shoe is very interesting. Now what happens is, along the way, now let me tell you about the trials, because he had 4 of them. I put 3 in my thing, but actually there were 4. So this happened in, let's see, the murders were in 2009, okay? And it did not go to trial. He did not get convicted for 8 years. Now this is what happened. This is just unbelievable mess. So anyway, let me find this here. All right. It wasn't until 2011 that he was arrested and charged with the murders. So that was 2 years later. So they were still trying to figure out, who did it and do they have enough to get him. Delays in DNA evidence meant the trial did not start till May 2014, okay? So that was that long. And so not 3 more years, so like 5 years have gone by now. But then they stopped that trial because they said there was new evidence and they wanted that would have an impact, so they stopped the trial. Then they went to the next trial. This is the second trial, and they started that in 2014. But then the judge got sick, the justice got sick and couldn't continue the trial, so they dumped that trial. The third murder trial continued in 2015, but the jury couldn't agree whether he was guilty or not, so it was a hung jury. They couldn't figure it out. After that, he was released from prison on bail and returned to live with Ms. Lynn in their family home, Kathy. All right, back to the family home just down the street. And then what happened was, all right, the fourth trial was where they put her on the stand and thought she was lying. They thought she knew more about this, that he was guilty. She claims she didn't know he was guilty. She doesn't believe he's guilty, and she thought the police were trying to railroad him, so anything she did that was shady was trying to help him, right? So they had some other pieces of information by the fourth trial. Now, one of them was that he was in prison, and this prisoner, some places say there was a recording. Others I just hear that it said that he claimed he had sedated her that night so that he knew she was out, and then he could leave the home and come back, and she claimed that he was with her the whole night. That was his alibi. He was right next to me in bed. But was he? So the claim is that he sedated her, and that's why she didn't wake up all night long. So she wouldn't know if he left the house and came back. That was one thing. Now, another very interesting thing was that she had been questioned by the Crime Commission about the murders and they had given some information to her. Meanwhile, they had put cameras in the house. They had bugged the house, essentially, had cameras in the house, okay? So now, that footprint came from a tennis shoe that was an Asics tennis shoe, ASICS. I have some of those, they're very good. Anyway, those on his feet are Asics tennis shoes, and that was the shoe that was part of the shoe print, and he had the right shoe size as well. Now, here's where it gets kind of funny. So they had these cameras in the home, and this is what they saw on the cameras, which I think is absolutely brilliant that they got this. Okay, here you go. You're going to hear a little in the background. Those are scissors, so just kind of try to listen. Yeah. Now, what is he chopping up? He is chopping up this box of the Asics shoes. And so I find this fascinating because she's sitting there in the kitchen all calm while he's taking a shoe box and chopping it into smithereens. And after he gets them all into little pieces, he takes them and flushes them down the toilet. Okay? Now, I think there's two very interesting things about that. One is that he did have those shoes, and he did have a shoe box. And then he's sitting there chopping up the shoe box, so clearly he thinks that makes him look guilty. Now, she's just sitting there all calm while he's chopping up the box. That's why the police suspected, does she know more about this crime than she's talking about? Because here's the thing. Some wives are really weird. She lost her brother and her nephews, and not her niece. So, but they got a business, and she doesn't want to lose a husband. So does she really know he did it? When he's chopping up that box, is she thinking, oh my God, he really did kill them? Or, as she claims, oh, I didn't mind him chopping up the box because I figured he was just trying to get rid of something that the police would try to connect him to the crime, even though he didn't do it. In other words, I can't help that I have A6 shoes in a box with that my shoes came in. And I have the right size feet. It's just coincidental, so I'm just going to get rid of this because I don't want the police to use this against me. So is she telling the truth? Does she know her husband? Did she know her husband did the crime but is willing to now not be willing to give him up or whatever else comes with him? Maybe her pride. Or has she really talked herself into believing he had nothing to do with it? So, that's quite interesting. This is very simple. It does not need help, Lisa. Killing a family of 5 alone is easy when they're asleep. It's that simple. They're asleep. When you sneak up on somebody's bed, and you nail them in the head with a hammer, and you nail both of them one after the other, boom, boom. Believe me, a large sledgehammer to your head is, you're probably not going to fight very much after that. And you're asleep, so when the first one hits you, if it doesn't make you unconscious immediately, you're so stunned, he's got time to do the second one, the third one, the fourth one, the fifth one, and beat them to death. They're sleeping. They're laying there totally asleep. So could he do it if he walked into a room with a hammer and there's 5 people that are standing up? No, probably not. But there's no evidence anybody else was involved whatsoever. She just can't believe it. She might not be able to. She's lived with this guy. There's an interesting how people cannot believe someone they've lived with who probably has shown psychopathic behavior through their entire marriage is what he is. And at some point you just don't want to admit it, but yes, he did the father and the wife, the father and the mother first. That's the first bedroom he went into. He's not stupid. He didn't waste his time with the little boys first, or even the aunt, because she was in her, I think, early 20s or something. So no, he went for the man first, the man and the woman, the big people first, knocking them out and killing them. And then, but if you hit them hard enough, they're also not going to scream because they're already too unconscious to do the screaming. So then you just go to the next bedroom and she's asleep too, and you whack them. By the time he got to the boys, then he did have a problem. Maybe because, I don't know why they woke up. Maybe they did hear something at that point. Maybe there was some sounds. But he did have to fight with one of them. But he killed him too, so, yeah. Let's see. Oh, so Kathy knew Robert had an interest in Brenda and she's okay with that. No, she believes Brenda's a liar. She does not know that he had an interest in her or he did anything to her. And I have not seen evidence that Brenda is telling the truth. I don't know. I honestly don't. I mean, I'm not one of these people who will say, well, because she said so, I have to believe it. I don't know. She could say that because it happened. She could say that and make it up. I have no idea. And maybe if I could see all the details and I could see the trial and I could see, psychiatric workups and all that stuff, I would know whether what she's saying is probably true, but I actually have no idea. So she does not believe Brenda's telling the truth, just like that. Why did she let him throw out her own parents from their home? She must be afraid of him. I don't know. It's, usually if you're married to somebody that's this way, usually you got issues too. That's always my theory on that. Or if you didn't have issues when you came into the marriage because you were somehow not young and naive, he gaslighted you so much by that point that you just haven't, a good way of thinking any longer. So that's possible as well. So anyway, they got him with those video cameras chopping up the box. Now, there's one last piece of evidence, and I think was the clincher, and this is kind of funny because this was very important, and the defense lawyer has something to say about this, and I think it's just really ridiculous. And let's see whether this disappeared out of my thing, because I do think it did. Yep, it did. Okay, I'm going to tell you about it because I'm having picture problems tonight. In the garage, maybe I can pull it up. Hold on 1 second. Let me just pull this up. I'm going to try to send it over. Okay. All right. I'm sending it over to my my StreamYard, so I feel like having these pictures. Okay, hold on 1 second. Here it comes. Okay. this, this is how you do the show after the fact. Okay. All right. I want to show you just the three pictures, because I like these three pictures. Okay, so in his garage was this. And okay, we're a little slow because here we go. Okay, there's this thing in the garage. I don't know why that chest of drawers is there, but that chest of drawers is there. So they moved the things around in his garage, and guess what they found? All right. So they took that off. They moved that chest of drawers, and under the chest of drawers. Come on, slow thing. Okay, hold on 1 second. Under the chest of drawers, you see what that little, you can see different, dirt and other things in there, but where that little white thing is at, that's the evidence sticker there, and I'm going to bring that up. There's the evidence sticker, and this is what kind of nailed him, and it should have, and the defense lawyer has a very funny way of, okay, so here it is. There is, to the left of that thing, it says, this is number 91, you'll see that is actually a blood stain. And it had at least 3 of the family's members' blood, DNA, 3 of them in that blood stain. 3 different family members. Okay? Now, what's interesting is, so that was like the clincher. So, okay, so they got him on a bunch of these. So he's got the opportunity, he's got the motive, it's somebody who, he's the likely person to have done it since he knew the family and was jealous and liked the girl. He had weird behaviors, all of this stuff, and then he had the shoe that matched the shoe print, and he was chopping up the shoe box in his house. That was like the second to the best, and then they got this DNA. All right, the DNA matched at least 3 of those people in the family. 3 of them is what they're saying. And so 3 different DNAs from that same family. How would that get there? Now, his defense lawyer claims that it could have ended up there after the crime because Brenda lived in his house, so it could be hers, and the 2 grandparents. They often went into the garage to do stuff. So somehow Brenda's DNA and the 2 grandparents' DNA suddenly all ended up in this one spot, which he put a chest of drawers over. No, that's the stupidest defense thing I've ever heard. But she claims that they confused the jury with this DNA test, and that's why the DNA results, and that's why the jury convicted him, because it could have been 3 other people who left their DNA on that one spot in his garage underneath the chest. No, absolutely not. So, the 4th trial, the dude got convicted. Finally. And he has been in prison. He's had appeals, and they have failed, which is a good thing, because he needs to be there. I think the evidence is strong, because there's circumstantial, there's motive, and there's opportunity, and there's these 2 physical pieces of evidence, which I think are very strong. So I think the jury, at the 4th time around, the 3rd time around they were hung. 4th time around they got it right. And it's kind of funny because in this particular case, me, and I do not like the jury system. There's actually a guy that came out about this case. His name is Greg Barnes. He said the Robert Shee case prompts questions about trial by jury. Yeah, so somebody's in my court on that one, because again, they don't understand all of the totality of the evidence put together that makes this guy pretty damn guilty. I don't think there's a reasonable doubt in this case. I would have liked to have seen a judge system originally in this case, 3 judges, 5 judges. I don't like the 1 judge system that creeps me out. But at least 3 or 5, 7, I'm good. As long as they're all professionals or a professional jury, I'm good with that. But this guy, pretty guilty. I want to say one happy picture at the end here. And this is Brenda, and now she's got a dog. And she says that, pretty much the dog is the one thing she trusts. She trusts the dog. And she's doing pretty well, but the interview with her is just so sad, and she's going to live with that the rest of her life. But her friends have been very good to help her, and she's doing her best to make her life a success and to find happiness in it. And she said there's a lot of people have shown her a lot of love, but the dog is the best part of it. So that dog has really given her some happiness, and she has some faith in the dog. So. Would I explain the blood stains again? Well, let me find the information here from the Crime Commission here. Okay. Let's see. All right, let me find the part about the stains. If I can find it. Where is it? Okay, evidence at the trial. Hold on. Oh, this is hold on, let's see if I can find it. Well, okay. One of the pieces of evidence being challenged concerning a DNA sample found on the floor of G's garage in May of 2010. Miss Rigg, his lawyer said there was absolute. Oh, wait a minute, hold on a second. Okay, not four. Okay, there's quotes around this, so I guess she's saying this. There's absolute evidence presented at the trial that DNA from at least 4 of the 5 deceased was present in the sample. Evidence that the DNA came from the 5 was central and pivotal to the Crown's case. But she argued that the possibility that the DNA could have come from 5 other living blood relatives should not be ruled out, which included Robert G's wife, Kathy Lynn, the sister of Min Lynn, as well as her parents. She also questioned the conclusion that the DNA from all 3 of the deceased males. Oh, that's what is. So there's male DNA. She argued that data showing this was impossible. I'm trying to find a better piece of information on the DNA, and I have not been able to access the court transcripts or anything, so I'm not absolutely sure. Let's see who can help me out here. This is good. All right, let's see. I think one of the boys' DNA was in the mixture was at a 1 out of 4 quadrillion match or something. Well, that's pretty good, Amanda. That's great. I'm glad you brought that up. Here's the thing about these matches. If there's 4 people in the world, for example, 1 out of 4 quadrillion. Okay. If there's a certain amount of people who could have similar DNA, if it's not a full profile, that may be true. But how many of those people could be in the area that this happened? And that's where they start saying, okay, so let's say, for example, there are 50 people in the world that have the same DNA, partial DNA as you. But they're all happen to be in Sydney, right in that neighborhood that night. 50 people in the entire world of billions and millions of people. Chances are, it's your DNA. It's your DNA. Let's see. So Lisa says, 1/4 quadrillion. My blood could be there as well. No, because it's so unlikely. I mean, it's a probability factor that's ridiculous. Now, here's the thing, is that there was not just one. There was a bunch of different ones that all matched. So it gets to the point where now the possibility of it being a weird coincidence that all these few different people all ended up in the garage at the same time to leave their DNA in that one spot is ridiculous. I mean, that's just, but I have to say, what I'm reading here is a little vague. It is vague. If I can find a better description of the DNA, and I've looked at a whole bunch of sites, and I'm not coming up with a better description, and I haven't been able to find the, I would like to see the entire, the corpus proceedings where I could find the actual, what the forensics were. Haven't been able to find it. But in the comments below, if you find it, put it in the comments below. I'll pin it to the top so that people can look up the issue on the DNA. So that we all will know a little bit better. He should have cut up the wood with the blood and flushed it instead of the shoebox. I think it was a cement floor. I don't know. He should have washed the floor better. I mean, theoretically, he had to come back. You know, when you kill a bunch of people and you come back home, usually you go to the garage and not into the house, you know, because that's where you can take care of things. You can wash off, you can put things in plastic and trash bags. I don't know how he cleaned up. I don't see the information on what they thought about that, because he had time, because they weren't, like, they didn't rush over to his house and, you know, get a warrant to, you know, check his whole house out. They didn't think it was him in the very beginning, so he had time. He had time that night because his wife was apparently out, you know, for enough hours. So let's say she's out for 4 or 5 hours. He's got that time, and he's a 3-minute walk, right? He finishes his little bludgeoning thing, and he walks down the street. And then, you know, you wonder, was there blood on the street any place? Was there blood going back toward his house? What did he do? How did he handle this? And I do not know the answer to that, because I haven't been able to access that information. There's enough information for me to believe he's guilty. I wish I had those other pieces of information, just because I'm curious. I understand. I want to point out about mass murderers, midlife mass murderers, why they do these things. His life was not good enough for him, and his brother-in-law had everything, and he was just sort of a chump. That's what he thought of himself, that he just was a failure. And by getting rid of the family, he did become a success, at least for a couple of years, until they arrested him. So, oh, did she say that? I think Kathy said he was messing around in the garage that morning too. I bet he was. Because he has to get rid of stuff, trash bags, get stuff into trash bags, wash things up, make sure everything's cleaned up. You have time to then maybe, oh yes, I forgot to mention that. They believe the reason he wanted to go to the parents' house, 30 minutes away. What do you think he might have been doing on the way to the parents' house? I forgot about this. What do you think? There you go. It would be interesting to see, very good Amanda, if cell phone data would indicate the route he took to pick up his parents. I don't know, and that's something I wish I did. But yeah, he had a 30-minute drive. And we don't know that it was a 30-minute drive when he drove it. It could have been a 1-hour drive. It could have been an hour-and-a-half drive. I don't know the details of how long it took him to get there, pick them up, and bring them back. So he could have used any route. And what would he be doing on that route? Yeah, there we go. Throwing out the evidence. You betcha. So he's got that that is yep, destroying evidence, right, Annie? And so he had all that time to get stuff done. He could have then, raced back to his house, leaving his wife there when the police came. I'm going to get the parents. He runs back to his house, which is 3 minutes walk. And if you're running, it's 1 minute. Okay? He's back in his house in a minute, grabs up the trash bags, his hammer, or whatever the else that crap is, puts it in the trunk, drives away, finds some trash bin somewhere in the middle of nowhere, and gets rid of the stuff. And if nobody is paying attention for a long time, the trash man is going to come and pick up that trash, and it's going to go to the dump, and it's going to be on the bottom of a huge dump someplace. And that evidence is going to be 100% missing. But the problem is, for whatever reasons, he should have gotten rid of the damn shoes. What an idiot. So I think he might have gotten rid of the shoes, but not the shoe box, you see. So, because they had a picture of him with the shoes on his feet. But did he stupidly keep the shoe box? People like shoe boxes for whatever reasons. And maybe there wasn't even the same exact shoe, but he buys a lot of the Asics, because I like Asics, so I buy one box of Asics and then I'll go replace it with another. So I'll do that too, but I throw away my boxes because I don't care about the box. But a lot of people keep the boxes. So now he realizes, oh my God, they know about the Asics shoes. I forgot about my boxes. You see, because those things may not occur to you. You got rid of the shoes, but not rid of the box. So I'm going to say probably get rid of the shoes, maybe some clothing, and whatever he used to whack them with. Probably get rid of all that. on the way to the parents' house. Yeah, I've blanked on that. There we go. We're quite a team. I'm really impressed with the comments here. Me too. And this is one reason why I liked having a patron chat room, because first of all, you're really interested and you're not nutcases. Like you get out on, when anybody can come rolling in and to cause trouble. And you actually think, you're thinking and putting in really good ideas. And, in reality, all analysis should be a teamwork, because, more than one brain is useful, because everybody sees things in a slightly different way. And sometimes you think of something the other person didn't even think of, and you're like, oh my God, for whatever reasons that didn't cross my mind. I forgot about that or whatever. Or you present something and then you have other people to say, that makes sense or it doesn't make sense. So I like the teamwork. It's very cool. Lisa says, gotta go. Bye, Lisa. Very interesting show. Thanks, Pat. Great to see you covering cases from around the world. I enjoy cases that are not always from the U.S. So yes, that's why I have the, what's this one? Oh, really? I remember this case. Wait a minute, what is this one? Reminds me of the New York City murder case. He murdered his wife, Michelle, then cut up his slippers and hid them all over. But the police found them. They found the slippers. So, yeah, getting rid of evidence, this is one reason when it comes down to like serial homicide and things like that, you've got a very small space of time to catch the person before they get rid of the evidence. So, the concept of we're going to keep this a secret for 5 years, it's like 5 years, most people get rid of their crap by 5 years. So, if you can get to their house in 1 hour, you got a better shot at it. So, but this I thought was a really interesting case. Just a horrifically sad case that it's hard to imagine that this was a necessary method for him to get something better in his life. That killing his wife's brother. Remember, he can't care much about his wife, so she's a fool. If she knows he's guilty, she's a fool. He's willing to kill her own brother to satisfy himself. He's willing to kill her nephews to satisfy himself, to get the ego trip, to get the business, and to get maybe the teenage girl in his home. This is a psychopath, 100% hands down psychopath, who just looked at his life and said, I will never get that much further. I'm going to be just what I am now. I'm going to be just a run-of-the-mill guy. And I don't want to be a run-of-the-mill guy. I want to be something better. And it pisses me off. Every time I go to that family dinner on Friday night, I have to sit there and have everybody rave about my brother-in-law and all the things they're doing and then what the kids are doing. I'm sick of it. I'm going to get rid of them, and then I don't have to hear that crap anymore. I will be the only one of importance. That's what I think he did. So, no, they never found they did not find the murder weapon that I know of. Yeah, I do not know that. Wait. Oh, that's probably true. I like this point. He's probably been talking bad about her brother for years. I will say that is probably very true. I'm curious I would love to know, when they had the cameras in the house, all the things that he said about her family after they were dead. Because you don't change your tune. You don't get all that sympathetic, you know what I mean? It's like you come up with reasons why it's okay that they're dead. I'd love to hear what he said. And I'm going to say that the court case, if I could find those documents and have the time to read all through them, might have some really interesting information about what they found. And that may be why. Here's a point I want to make. Sometimes when Innocence Project get involved and people start reading from the Innocence Project and versions of the Innocence Project, other kinds of groups like that, they don't get all that information. So, what if they actually read the entire trial transcript and found out all kinds of things that this guy said and did? And they go, maybe he is guilty. But if we can't read those things, we have a small amount of information. So this is an educational show, as I point out all the time. My purpose here is not to prove something. It's to show how evidence is figured out, to show how police investigation might work, to show how one might profile a crime, to help understand the mind of criminals and what they do. But because there's always this, in a show like this, there's going to be a limited amount of information. There are things I don't know, and if I knew them, that would be really cool. We'd learn more, but we have a limited time frame. So, yes, you can hear the 911 call. That's actually in the link I'm putting below. Yeah. Yes, you can hear the 911 call. It is available. So that'll be in the link. Yeah. And she's clearly freaked. I mean, she did not know these people have been killed. I mean, her family, I believe totally she's innocent as far as that goes. She got to the house and a horror awaited her. And I'm sure it was absolutely dreadful that she can't reconcile the fact that her husband has been convicted of it is a whole nother issue. Let me show you what, let me give you, I don't think I put this up here. Hold on a second. Just because you said that, I forgot I did bring this over here. Listen to what she says.
Her Aunt Kathy still refuses to believe he's guilty.
He is innocent. We believe that he is innocent. We keeps fighting for him.
Fighting for him. She's still fighting for him. She believes he's innocent. He's innocent. Yeah. But he's not been found innocent. He's been found guilty. So unless they can come up with some, of course they're going to keep trying, appeal after appeal after appeal. I don't know the Australian system, but in the U.S. you just appeal to death over things. And as long as you can get groups of people to support you and get a fan club and, for whatever reasons, a lot of support. But so far his defense attorney hasn't come up with anything really worthwhile. so they turned down the last appeal because they're like, yeah. No, that's not working. So, but anyway, I thought that was a really interesting case. So that's it for today. I'm going to be here on Sunday talking about Phil Spector and blood spatter pattern, because that is a fascinating thing and part of his case. There's still some people who believe he's innocent, that he did not kill that girl. He did not kill that girl. And he said, oh, I'm innocent. I did not do that. Now he's dead, so he can't keep saying that. But there are some interesting things that he made his claims that for sure he wouldn't have done such a thing. So, but it comes down to, in this particular case, blood spatter pattern. So I'll be talking about that in the Phil Spector case. And so that will be on Sunday. Oh, no, Ann, there's no $sign. There won't be. All my other videos have the $sign. But what happens is, first of all, right now we're unlisted. When you're in the chat room, we're unlisted. Only patrons are here, and it's not out to the general public yet. After we finish a show, I'll add a few things in to the description box below. Then I put it for public view. Everybody can see it then. But that $sign, it'll say on my own computer, it's still processing. That $sign doesn't show up for like a day, sometimes a few hours or a day, and then it pops up. So that's when the $sign shows up. So, it's nice that they finally are allowing people to support in that way. If people aren't, looking for, they see like a video, they really like the one case that they wanted to be done, and they're happy I did it, and they say, okay, I'm going to, toss some money to the channel so you can keep going. That's awesome. So the $sign it's very nice that they have super thanks now, because it means anybody who sees any of my videos at any time now or in the future can support the channel with a one-time donation, which is nice considering how often they demonetize my videos and say, that one we don't like it. It's got questionable stuff in there. My last one, by the way, the Brazilian one, that was demonetized. I think it's because I showed one crime scene photo. So, my bad. I don't know if that was it. They don't tell you why. They just go, sorry. You're like, okay. Oh, you're most welcome, Lisa. I'm glad you were here, and I'm glad everybody participated in figuring things out. So that was really cool. So hopefully I will see you on Sunday. I think I'll be doing it at 4 p.m. Eastern. Going to a soccer game. My granddaughter's now playing soccer, so I'm going to watch her run up and down the field, and hopefully she kicks the ball at the right direction. You know how that goes. She is only 8, so we'll give her a little bit of a break there. So anyway, hopefully I will see you then. And Sunday. And we're going to have a call-in show on Tuesday evening. So all of you guys, who are my level 5 guys who would like to call in, you can let me know by messaging me that you want to call in. We'll make sure you have a way to call in properly, and on that night too. Oh, you can put what you want to talk about, anything special, and then on that night, if you're in the chat room and you want to call in, you just raise your hand, sort of, we can have more than one person calling in. So do that. It'll be a lot of fun. So see you soon.